Hello YouTube. Been a while since I've done a video for you guys. I'm going to go through the proper setup and tear down of a Oxyfuel cutting rig here, and some of the safety aspects of it, and try to help some of you guys out to make you a little more proficient with your hand torch cutting. So we'll go ahead and get started here. This is more about safety and setting the equipment up than it is cutting. This is not a how-to cut video. This is a safety video. This is about setting the equipment up properly, maintaining it, and putting it together and tearing it back down for the next guy safely to use it. So we'll go ahead and get started. And we'll go ahead and start with the oxygen first. We'll go ahead and take the lid off of the cylinder. I'm going to inspect the threads to see if there's any grease, any kind of petroleum product on there, dust, dirt, grit, grinding dirt, whatever. And I'm going to stand on the back side of the valve here, off to the side, and quickly crack the cylinder. That will blow any kind of dust or any kind of foreign objects in there off the seat. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to inspect my regulator to see if it has any kind of foreign objects on the seat of the stem, and if it has any dirt or foreign objects in the inlet of the regulator. And I'm going to inspect the threads to make sure they're not damaged. There's no kind of petroleum products, oil, or anything of that sort on the threads. And then I'm going to look at the back side, the outlet side of the regulator, and I'm going to inspect it too to make sure it's not damaged and that the seat is free and clear of any foreign objects and that the threads aren't damaged. Then I'm going to check the regulator screw and make sure there's no tension on it. Make sure that's free. The oxygen cylinder is right-hand thread. Snug it up as such. Take a crescent wrench, torch wrench, whatever. There's some of these universal torch wrenches that's got all the sizes on them. I just use a fit all. Snug the regulator down onto the valve of the oxygen, and I'm going to move one over to the acetylene. I'll move you guys out here a little bit so you can see what's going on down here. It's the same process. Just have to hold you maybe. This is going to turn out to be a horrible video. But I'm going to inspect the inside the cylinder here. These are left-handed, by the way, to make sure there's no dust, dirt, debris, anything of that sort. And I'm going to inspect the regulator the same way. I'm going to inspect the seat for the hose end. Make sure there's no dust, dirt, crud, oil, grease, what have you in there. And then I'm going to bring it around here and I'm going to inspect this seat part. The seal happens between this seat and the seat inside the valve. These threads are left-handed and they are noted with a notch in the hex of the nut, the stem nut here. This stem looks pretty good. I just went through these regulators, by the way, and that's why you see some tape on some of the gauges here. And the acetylene regulator is left-handed. I'll go ahead and put it on. Give it a little wiggle. Snug it down. Make sure there's no tension on the regulator screw. And then we will step off to the back side of the regulator, and we will open the oxygen valve up slowly. And we will open the oxygen all the way up, and we will seat that valve at the top, all the way open, wide open. This valve has a piping gland in it, but it's also a double seat valve. It's seated at the bottom and it's seated at the top. If you do not open that up all the way, it will leak around the stem. And the gauge says we have approximately 1,100 pounds in that cylinder. We're going to do the acetylene cylinder the same way. Stand off to the side. And we're going to slowly open the acetylene regulator, or the acetylene valve, until that pressure starts to climb. And we open it up. Get off one seat. It's a half turn, 1.5 turns. No further than 1.5 turns on the acetylene. You want to be able to get this valve shut off fast if there's a fire that would happen to occur between the regulator and the torch. There's also lead plugs that I'm pointing to here in the top of the cylinder. There's 2 in the top and there's a set in the bottom too, so if there's a fire would happen to occur inside this cylinder, these plugs will melt out and it'll keep it from exploding. It will melt these plugs off, and you'll have a pretty good fire there. But you want to be able to shut this acetylene off fast. It does not have a top seat in the valve. It just relies on the piping gland. Now, we've already inspected the outlet of the regulator to the hose. So what we're going to do now is we're going to slowly adjust our regulator in and blow whatever contaminants would be inside that regulator out, and then back off. And we are going to do the acetylene the same way. We've already inspected the outlet of the hose, to the hose. This is the working side of the regulator. We're going to slowly open it up with the regulator screw, and we're going to blow any kind of contaminants out that would be in that regulator. These are the hoses. We're going to inspect the hoses. This is the oxygen nut. We're going to inspect the seat. We're going to inspect the threads, and we're going to inspect the inlet of the hose to make sure there's no foreign objects. Same thing with the acetylene. It is left-handed. It is noted with the groove cut center way of the hex. That is left-handed. We'll check for foreign objects, oil, grease, dirt, contaminants on the inlet side of the hose, and then we're going to put them on the cylinder. I used to do a lot more talking in my videos than what I'm doing now. I got some hints from some fellow YouTubers that says less talking, more action. These are 11/16, by the way, both, if you want to use a standard regular wrench on those. And then we are going to snug that up on the oxygen. And then we're going to snug this up on the acetylene. Then we are going to inspect our hose, make sure it doesn't have any bad spots, any burnt places, anything of the sort. And we are going to inspect the other end of the hose the same way we inspected the inlet end of the hose. We want to inspect both hoses the same way we did on the inlet side. We're looking for foreign debris, matter, dust, dirt, grease, oil, any kind of foreign materials. Make sure those seats aren't beat up. That is what does the sealing. And we're going to open the valves up. I'm going to do the oxygen first. And that will help blow any kind of foreign material that's in that hose out. We're going to do the acetylene the same way. Ramp it up to about 5 or 6 pounds and back it off and back that hose off. Okay, we've gotten to the hoses. Now we're going to take a look at our cutting torch. This is the cutting torch. This is a hairstyle torch. You want to make sure that the reverse flow check valves or flash arresters are either installed at the torch or you have a set at the regulators. The newer stuff seems like the Vector stuff has built-in reverse flow check valves or flash arresters. The Harris's do not, so you need to make sure that those are on there and that they are functioning properly. We're going to inspect the seats the same way we did with the rest of it. No foreign objects, no foreign material, no grease, no dirt. The seats are undamaged, the threads are undamaged, and we're going to go ahead and lace this dude up on the hose. Acetylene is left-handed, and it is denoted with left-handed thread with the notch cut in the nuts. The oxygen is right-hand, so you cannot get these backwards. And snug that up. And snug that up. Now, we're ready to purge our lines. And I always do my oxygen first. This is where I generally set my working pressures at too. I'll pull the oxidizing lever and I will open. Somebody stood on the valve, it ain't a good thing. I will open the oxygen valve up a good turn and a half. And I will stand off to the side. And I will start raising my, hold on a minute, I gotta move you up here so you can see what's going on with the oxygen regulator. I will go ahead and start working my, I really suck at this. My working pressure up to about, that's 20, 25, 30. Somewhere around in there. And then you have just purged your torch. Shut the oxygen down. And I will do the same thing over here with my acetylene. Move you down so you can see what's going on with it. Open my valve, my acetylene, turn, and I will go ahead and set my working pressures at about 5, 5.5, 6 pounds. Acetylene, about all you need is about 5 or 6 pounds. This is a dual stage regulator, so you notice how it shot up there. Be careful. You don't never want to run acetylene above 15 pounds per square inch. And then we will take the torch and lay it down, and we will check everything for leaks. I'll be right back. I like to use soapy water, and I put that on all my connections, around my valves and my hose connections. It looks like I have a slight leak on my acetylene. We're going to do the same thing up here on the oxygen. No leaks. Make sure we have no leaks. And we don't have any leaks there. And then we're going to do the same thing with the torch down here on the handle. I don't have any leaks. I like to check around my valves too. That'll indicate whether you need to tighten the packing up in the valves of the torch. This is just soapy water and Dawn dishwashing liquid. We have a slight leak up here at the acetylene. So you may be thinking this. No, that don't go on that. I'm going to give it just a little bit more snug with the wrench. I believe I have a damaged seat. Yep, there it went. It stopped now. Okay, this torch is ready to burn. Now, to properly shut this unit down, you do everything in reverse order. First thing you do, shut your acetylene off. Set your oxygen down, good and tight. Now always open and bleed off the acetylene first. Watch the needles go to 0. Shut the valve on the torch. And then over here on the oxygen, I usually just pull the oxidizing lever and watch everything go to 0. Make sure both valves is closed. Back off the regulator screws until there's no tension on them. And break down the unit in reverse order from assembly. And that is the correct way to set up and tear down oxyacetylene rig. Thank you all, and you have a nice evening, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.